All right, so I'm back. I did tell you guys in the last video, I'm most likely going to come back after the fact. So it is now after the fact. So I'm thinking in this video, we can probably I'm thinking going over my birthing experience because high anxiety the whole entire time. And I guess I'm 2 weeks postpartum and maybe some of the postpartum stuff that I've been feeling as it pertains to hypertension and thyroid and all those things. So when it comes to my labor with her, I went into natural labor. On the 4th, I was supposed to be induced on the 6th of February. So on the 4th, my water broke at home at 9. And then from the 4th, we went to the hospital that night. And then they were waiting for the contractions to come in, which never really happened. They were extremely spaced out. And they were obviously, if your water breaks, you need to have this baby underneath a certain amount of time. So if we can get her out as soon as possible, let's do that. So between them they gave me 4 hours to kind of just see if my body would just kind of kickstart. And it didn't. So they ended up giving me Pitocin. In them giving me the Pitocin, my contractions started to come in, and that could have been around, I want to say 5 o'clock. They started giving me Pitocin. So I was in active labor between 5 and 7, and 7:15 she was born. And I had a doula in the room with me. I had my husband in the room with me. My doula was amazing, super, super supportive. It was unmedicated, so I never got an epidural, and trust me, I wanted to. I would say out loud, I don't know if I could do this kind of thing. But she came so quickly that by the time it was time, she was already ready to be here. So that was that. And in that regard, I'm very, very, very grateful for my experience. My biggest thing has been just wanting a safe delivery, a quick delivery, just knowing, even though my delivery with my first was it was fine. The issue was it was still challenging. There were still moments where there was just microaggressions happening between me and a staff member, between the hospital and or the midwifery I was at the time. But with this particular birth, it was everyone was so helpful. Everyone was so hands-on, encouraging, and really supporting me and having the birth experience that I wanted to have, as long as it was physically possible to have it. And for that, I'm super, super grateful. And it's just interesting too, because she also was born on my grandmother's birthday, which is trippy. I think I did document in another video that I did have a dream about my grandmother the day before I found out that I was pregnant. And that's the one that she's born on the birthday of. So I feel there's some type of spiritual tie to that thing, to that moment. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know who she's going to be, how's it going to manifest, who am I going to be. I don't know. But I do think there's something there for us, So I guess we'll see how that kind of unravels. Postpartum, the whole entire time too, they were checking my blood pressures, and they were fine. They were pretty good, 117/60 kind of thing. Postpartum, they checked me regularly while I was there. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days, just because I wanted them to just make sure I was good. And those were coming out really, really fine. So since I've been home, I've been checking them myself, and they also have been pretty fine. Since having the baby, I had to pull back on my medication to what it was before, in the case of the thyroid, before I got pregnant. So I'm back to taking 6 days a week. I see that doctor in 2 more weeks. So I will be about 5 weeks postpartum, 4 or 5 weeks postpartum. 4 weeks postpartum, because it's on the 3rd. And then I have my postpartum appointment for the 6 weeks after that. So we'll see how those go in that regard. But I feel good. Like with my first, if anyone's seen those videos, it was a mess. I felt like I got hit by a brick. I didn't feel like myself all the way probably to really the present. It was really bad. And baby blues, depression, postpartum anxiety, like all of it. Like I had all of it or whatever. And I felt like I was in a fog, you know? That this time around, I didn't and don't feel that. Like I don't feel like I got hit by a bus. I don't necessarily feel like overly anxious or overly sad or anything. Yeah, there's moments where certain things are a struggle and they're challenging, but it's not what it was before. So far, my body is not having any of the symptoms that it was having as well before the pregnancy. So I'm really, really grateful about that. I would just say, like, overall, it's really been like a prayer answered. You know, like, I think I could have said this before, but I really do feel like my first was for me to get to know God different than I ever had to before. Like, really start to practice to lean into Him for everything, essentially. For everything. For breathing, for waking up, for going to sleep, like for every minute thing. I think that was a lesson for my first. And then for my second child, I feel like it's been more like a trust thing. Like, do you trust me? Kind of thing. Because if you've seen any of my videos, I done cried throughout the whole pregnancy about just this fear of doing this again, knowing like how terrible I've been feeling for the past 2 years or whatever, physically in my body and having some complications, you know? So to be here, to have the birth I wanted to have the positive interactions I did with the people I did, knowing I was scared even for that, because it was hospital staff and they don't necessarily have the best reputation. And like hospital staff in general don't have the best reputation. The hospital I went to actually has a really good reputation in the case of their maternity ward. And my body's capability post. Like I was scared that it would just be the same thing and my first would get that same version of me longer, like in a longer extent. My second will get a reintroduction of that version of me. I get that version of me. My husband gets that version of me. And that was just a lot of pressure, but truly a prayer answered, because I don't feel that way. I actually feel more like myself than I have in a long time, you know, and still monitoring, still a little anxious because this is the time frame when things was coming up before. So I'm a little on edge, just like, is it going to happen again? But outside of that, I really truly don't have any complaints, you know, like it's been good. Like it's been good. Not necessarily like easy, but just good. You know, like it's been a prayer answered, you know? So yeah, so that's just pretty much the update with that. I think there's probably another time where I'll talk about maybe going from 0 to 1 versus 1 to 2 and the things that come up with that. In the case of like the emotional journey, leading into God for different things, what it is to have 2 daughters, like those kind of things. Because I do think the gender that we're given and the children that we're given is meant to do something in us, or we're meant to do something within the end. We're meant to do something in them, and whatever that exchange is. So I'm actually very curious as to like why I was given 2 girls. One of my grandmother's birthday. And what is that going to do for us as a family, for them as sisters, and for me as their mom? And even my husband, like, what is that going to do in him, you know? As a man taking care of these little girls. So, yeah, we'll see. But I definitely wanted to just give the update. Definitely a prayer answered. And I would say for anyone who is scared to do things again because they did have some type of birth trauma or postpartum trauma, that if you do have a faith-based relationship with your God or a God, that you really lean into that and not allow fear itself to be the reason why you don't have your family. Like, it is who, like, the fear part I'm learning is like the enemy trying to stop generational things that's supposed to happen from happening. And if we let it, it won't happen, you know? And that going through your pregnancy, you'll work your way up to be okay. You'll work your way up for giving yourself more credit, giving God more credit, and really just like pray on it. As in, like, am I supposed to be doing this? Is this something that you want me to do? Like, I still have this yearning for this bigger family or for these children, and this fear is kind of like getting in my way. And it really just get into your word and give your fear to God and highlight all the things that you are grateful for in this season, even though, you know, and let it just be, you know, because you could get the exact thing that you've been praying for this whole time and more. So that would be my advice to anyone. So yeah, later.